Did Mr. Karegeya pay the price?
I
Pay the price that President Kagame is talking about. Did he pay the price?
I think we still need to know. He is dead. He was murdered in South Africa. I don't think that we can draw a connection between what President Kagame was saying and what happened to Karegeya in South Africa. Did he pay the price? I don't think that we can draw that conclusion right now. But all I can say is what President Kagame is saying does not necessarily have to do with Karegeya. It has to do with everybody who betrays the country. Now, what
did Mr. Karegeya betray the country?
Of course. Karegeya has been on record as a declared enemy of the state.
But Mr. Ambassador,
he has personally said...
Forgive me for jumping in, but a man is murdered. Your government says it has no knowledge of who murdered him, but says anyone who betrays the country will pay the price. I mean, forgive me for saying so, but anyone would draw the conclusion that your government was responsible for that. Of
course, anybody can draw whatever conclusion they need, they want to draw.
And then the president comes around and says treason brings consequences.
No, actually, what the president is saying is what every government around the world says. Treason is a crime that every government around the world holds people to account. If you are a traitor...
But murder is a completely different story then, because we're talking about a man being murdered, not being held to account.
Yeah, but President Kagame never said that he murdered Karegeya.
No, he did not. What I'm saying is that it's incredibly difficult for, the average person to understand why the president would very carefully choose these words and say there's no connection between what he is saying and an opponent of the government who was murdered 2 weeks ago.
The South African government is yet to determine the circumstances under which Karegeya died and who is actually responsible for his murder. Now, you're telling me that President Kagame should stand up and take responsibility for that murder? I don't think that that is an appropriate, supposition.
But when your defense minister, Mr. Kabarebe, is being quoted in the AP of saying, ignore those making noise that someone was strangled with a rope on the 7th floor in a certain country. We know who he's talking about. And goes on to say, if you choose to be a dog, you die like a dog. Mr. Ambassador.
I think the metaphor refers essentially to people who have become useless. As far as Rwanda is concerned, Karegeya had become a declared enemy of the state. He had been on record saying that he advances the overthrow or government change through through violent means.
But what about
to the extent that he takes that position, he loses value. He is no longer useful to us as a country because he's an opponent of this state.
But he's not even living in the country. But what about ordinary people who simply oppose the Rwandan government? Because it was widely reported that in 2011, the British government had to warn your country's citizens who are opposed to President Kagame, opposed to your government, had to warn them about threats to their lives here in the UK.
Actually, that was a result of allegations that have never been proved. And the government of Rwanda has over 10 million people that it is concerned of protecting. Anybody who threatens the lives of the country and the life of the country and the lives of the 11 or so million people that live in the country need to be held to account.
And how will they be held to account?
Different ways. Like the president says, if you threaten the state has a right to defend itself.